She lived life the way she wanted to and made her dreams come true.
Hello, beautiful beings. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Trini LaShawn, and in this video, I am sharing with you what I know to be true about mastering your mind and therefore mastering your reality. I have come to know these things to be true through experience, not by reading a book, not by really studying. I do study for my spiritual practice, but the impact that our mind has on us and our ability to tap into the power of the mind is something that is so personal to me because I went through a lot of traumatic experiences from the time that I was a child that really programmed me to be a slave to my mind, and in a very negative way. I faced issues of depression, anxiety, a constant state of fear. And I got to the point where I realized that it was either that I was going to continue to live my life where I was sabotaging myself and being a slave to the negative thoughts that I was constantly having, or I was going to take control of my life. And that's exactly what I did and what I do every single day. And I'm very thankful for the experiences that I've had, good and bad, so that I could come to a really deep understanding of how the mind works. So the first thing in becoming a master of your mind is understanding the sheer power of the mind. The mind is really your powerhouse for your life. And it's where every single thing begins or originates. So if you look around and you look at, anything that you see in front of you, a book, a work of art, a car design, a building design, an organization, a program, anything, a TV show, every single thing that you can see or that you've ever experienced originally began in the mind. And so it's kind of like they say, if you can dream it, you can achieve it. Well, you have to have a vision. You have to have something in your mind to get your creativity flowing, to inspire you to either create something for your detriment or for your good. And that's just how the mind works. Now, those of us who have been through experiences that were very traumatic, and those of us who were taught to think in a fearful state, or if you were constantly filled with anxiety, or if you were taught that you were inferior, then you have to understand that your mind is naturally programmed to come from that, or to always be in that state. Okay, so we're the ones who have to work really hard to train our minds, but we can do it. I'm telling you, we can do it. I do it every single day, and my life is so much better because of it. Okay, so understanding the sheer power of the mind is the first step. Then you have to understand the process that we naturally go through to go from mind to reality. Okay, because it doesn't just happen like I'm thinking, or I have something in my mind, and then bam, it's what I'm living. So there's a process to it. So the first thing is a thought. And thoughts come to you through experiences, through conversations, through things that you read. And when you think about how exposed we are to ideas nowadays, like through social media, we're really on thought overload. And sometimes your thoughts are not necessarily your own. They are coming from, like, if you read a news story, that news story or that thought that you have is coming from an outside source. It's coming from somebody who wrote a story. And we don't know if they're being objective or subjective. We don't know what spin they're putting on it. So we're very vulnerable to outside forces, sending us thoughts and implanting thoughts within us. So that's why controlling your mind is extremely important nowadays, because we have so much, we're inundated with so many different thoughts and ideas. Okay, so it always starts as a thought in your mind. Now, your thought will affect your emotional state, your vibration, your feelings. Okay, so for example, if I read something really sad in the news, which, that's pretty much all that's around right now, right? So I read something sad in the news, if I think about that enough, that's an original thought, an idea that came to me, right? Now, if I continue to think that over and over and over again, then eventually I'm going to feel sad. So that thought, that original idea, impacted my feeling or my emotion. So now I'm feeling sad, okay? Now, your emotions, your feelings will produce your actions or result in your actions, okay? So, the best way to describe this is like those antidepressant commercials where the person's like staring out the window and they're like, I just couldn't walk my dog. I was so sad and depressed that I couldn't take my child outside to play. And, they're overly dramatic about it in the commercial, but it's true. That's how depression is. And it came from feeling sad, and therefore you don't have the motivation and the inspiration to act, to do what you want to do. It's those things that will create your reality, but you don't even have the inspiration or motivation to do it because you're in such a sad and a low emotional state, and those emotions impact and influence your actions. So if you're feeling sad and depressed, it makes sense that you're not going to want to do anything because that emotion affects your actions. If you're feeling happy and you're in a positive, good vibrational state, then you're going to want to act and do happy things. You're going to want to, do healthy things for yourself and healthy things with people around you. So your emotional state impacts your actions and what you do. Now, those actions influence your reality. Okay, so everything you do will impact your reality. Say, for example, if you want to manifest getting a new job. Well, if you're not looking for a new job, if you're not searching for a new job, if you're not sending your resume to people, if you're not, then you're not going to get the job. And this is something that I think that a lot of people look at spiritual people as like, out of tune or out of whack, because some spiritual people get so hung up on the spiritual where they're like, oh, I have spoken it into existence and I know it's coming, and it's like, okay, it's great to speak it and it's great to align your, get your energy going. And, I'm all about magic, but I'm also about practicality and understanding that there are different dimensions and we are in the third dimension. So if you align that physical with the mental, with the spiritual, with the emotional, that's when manifestation happens, right? But because in that negative state, you're not able to produce the actions that would manifest what you want to bring about in your life, it's not going to happen. And it all started with a thought. You could be manifesting something in your life and be so excited and so pumped about it and so like in that mode where you're on it. And then you have a conversation with somebody and they introduce a thought to your mind that just kind of, bursts your bubble. And they're introducing a thought to you that puts you in a vibrational state after thinking that thought over and over again. You start feeling like, maybe this is not what I want. So doubt. Maybe I can't do it. Fear. What's going to happen if? Anxiety. So these thoughts that not necessarily originated from a bad place, but particularly if you're someone who is already inclined to feel fearful or doubtful because of your past experiences, the things that you were told as a child, the experiences that you've had in your relationships, and so your mind is sort of already inclined to head to the negative end of the spectrum. You see what I'm saying? So that's all the more reason to be very aware of your thoughts. But we have to be aware of them because they're coming from so many different places, from family, from friends, from, it could come from a stranger, it could come from social media, especially nowadays where, we're all virtual at this point, right? It's very important that we guard ourselves and that we understand and are just simply aware that these thoughts are coming and they come fast and incessantly sometimes. And if you are just simply aware of the original thought that put you in a certain vibration, that's going to help you so much. The problem is that we usually only identify the emotion. So by the time the thoughts have had a field day in our minds, we're already in a certain vibrational state. So we're already fearful, we're already doubtful, we're already anxious. And at that point, it's like you can definitely redirect, but it's much better to start before the thoughts are coming or as they come. The next thing you would probably wonder is, okay, so I see the link between thoughts and feelings and actions and your reality, but how do I control my thoughts? How do I, even if I'm aware of them, how do I determine what thought comes to me or not? So a part of that is just practicality. So in talking about like social media, we have some control over that. So what I like to do is, once a month or so, I kind of step back and take a look at my news feeds, and I'll see what sources I'm getting information from. Do I still agree with that? Does that vibe with me? Do I vibe with it? Am I in agreement with the state of the information that I'm getting? And if I'm not, I'll unfollow or unsubscribe or whatever I need to do in order to protect myself. So some of it is very practical and sort of on the external. If there is someone who, when you interact with them, you find that they're toxic and you just don't vibe with the things that they are saying, it may not be that you have to end a friendship. It may just mean that you need to take a little break and step away from a person's energy for a while so that you can get a handle on, what is coming at me that is negative, or, is it coming to me and then I'm twisting it, and you can kind of stop and analyze it. But giving yourself that space to be able to do that and determine what energy is coming to you and what thoughts these people are sending to you and how you're processing that and the impact it's having on you. So that's a form of self-care, and it's very important. Another part or part of the equation is self-mastery through meditation. It's really funny to me because I was listening to the KOD album by J. Cole, and he has a song where he's talking about all of the problems in society and the struggles, and he offers meditation as a solution. And he says it so simply, like, meditate. And there's so much power in that because it does seem very simple. And I'm sure that a lot of people, when they hear that, they're like, yes. But some people, when they hear that, they're going to be like, meditate, But it's so true. Because just think what would happen if every single person on the face of this earth took the time to go within themselves and to reflect and to get to know who they are and their inner workings, how they work, how their mind works, which is what meditation ends up being. It can be as simple or as in-depth as you want it to be, but that's the goal, is to be able to understand the workings, the inner workings of you. And so if everybody would do that, what would this world look like, So yes, meditation is key. And I think that a lot of people get discouraged when they hear that, because they're like, I can't meditate. I can't sit in, lotus position for an hour and do that, all day long, and tomorrow too, and the next day, and every single day. But the truth of the matter is that it can start off as simple as you need it to be. If you only want to meditate each day for 5 minutes starting off, and you want to do it while you're lying in your bed, for starting, I really like to focus on the breath. And so you might say, okay, for 5 minutes, I'm going to sit on the floor, or I'm going to lie down on my bed, however I'm comfortable, and I am going to simply focus on my breath. I'm going to put my hands on my stomach and feel the changes in my body as I inhale and I exhale. Or now is a beautiful time to do this because we have, a lot of us are in quarantine, and so you can go outside and you can just simply focus on the sounds that you hear. And you'll find that there's so much beauty in that, because it's like you'll hear things that you haven't paid attention to, or that you may not have paid attention to for a long time. The way that the birds sound, the way that the wind sounds rustling through the leaves, or, you might hear a car honking its horn or whatever, but it attunes your body to things that you might not be used to hearing. And so you'll feel differently. And the first thing that you'll usually feel when you meditate is a very deep sense of calm and relaxation. But eventually you're going to notice that the struggle with meditation is the mind. So as soon as you start to meditate, or soon after, and you're like, oh, this feels so good, I'm getting quiet, thoughts will come to you. Right? And you'll start thinking, oh my God, I did not mop the floor yesterday. I got to do that. Or I got to run to the grocery store tonight. What am I going to eat for dinner? What am I going to, I got to wash the dishes. Did I send that email? That person never texted me back. And so all of these thoughts start coming, and it's seriously like when you're quiet and you start to meditate, you will notice the frequency that these thoughts come to you in, how constantly this happens. And being aware of that is actually very empowering, because just understanding how your mind works, I think about what I didn't do a lot. Do I need to make a change to my schedule? Or do I just need to go easy on myself and say, you know what, this is my time, so I'm going to focus on my breath and redirect my mind to the thoughts that I choose to think. So, yeah, this thought came to me about mopping the floor, but I'm going to think about my breath. This thought came to me about having to wash the dishes tonight. I'm thinking about my breath. I'm not thinking about anything else. Back to the sounds outside, back to the birds. What do I hear? What do I hear? And so when you do that through meditation, that will carry over into the rest of your life. I promise you, if you do it, I give you 30 days. If you meditate for 5 minutes for 30 days, you will find that you have more control. First of all, more awareness of the thoughts that you are thinking. And then you'll have the ability to control them. I'll never forget the moment that I realized that I was starting to get the hang of this was when I was working a job that I did not like, and I was on my way to work in the morning, and a thought came to me to slip into an old behavior that I would often do in order to feel better about myself, or to distract myself from the heart of the problem. The heart of the problem was that I was working a job that I didn't like. But what my mind brought to me was, well, you could go shopping today after work and it would be okay because you're going to feel good. And I realized right then and there that there was no benefit in that for me. And so I was not going to nurse that thought. I was not going to allow myself to continue to vibrate on that frequency of, yeah, I'm happy now, and that's a false happiness, right? So that thought that comes to you, it gives you a sense of happiness, but it's false, and it will reveal its true self. Once you have, charged all that stuff that you shouldn't have charged on your credit card, or once you have, had that drink that you didn't want to have, or once you have done whatever it was that you didn't want to do, that you really felt was out of alignment with your soul, then it's going to reveal its true self in the form of the true emotion that it invokes within you. And that is one of sadness, one of longing, one of frustration because, oh, I did this again. So thoughts will always produce emotions. It's just a matter of what thought am I choosing and what is that going to produce for me. So once you begin to meditate for an extended period of time, and I don't mean like for hours on end, just do what you can do to start with, but do it consistently. And once you do that and those thoughts come to you while you're in meditation and you say, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm thinking about this. And this is whatever you're focusing on. You could focus on a crystal. You can have a crystal in front of you and say, I'm going to focus on what this crystal looks like and how it feels. And that's all I'm going to focus on. Or I'm going to gaze into it. You know, it could be anything, because the point is to be able to focus your attention to what you want to focus on. And that's how you become the master of your reality, because you choose to think thoughts that align with your purpose. So once you decide that there's something that you want to do or to accomplish, you say, oh, well, this thought right here does not support what I'm going for, so I'm not going to think about that. I'm going to think about this. That's why people talk about visualization. By visualizing, you are selecting something that you want to bring about, and you're adjusting your emotions or your vibration to that particular thing. So if I want to achieve wealth, I'm going to visualize myself being wealthy. You know, what does that look like to me? For me, I focus more on wealth just as like, you know, prosperity with my family and having good relationships. So I'm going to think about going outside and, you know, playing baseball with my son, or I'm going to think about taking my kids to the park. And I know that that will manifest a happy, healthy relationship by me doing those things, by me nurturing my children and spending time with them. And that's where my mind is. If you're trying to manifest purchasing a new home, what do you need to think about? Don't think about all the horror stories you hear about. Okay, I mean, do your research, but don't focus on the naysayers and the thoughts that come to you of, you know, can I even do this? You know, my credit score was such and such and so and so. Can I even get it right in this amount of time? Yes, you can. So once you decide that and you visualize it, that's where you adjust yourself. That's where you put yourself. That's where you vibrate. And then when those thoughts that don't align with that come to you, I'm aware, I can recognize that, and I choose to select my thoughts carefully, those that align with what I'm trying to manifest and what I'm trying to do in my life. Those are the thoughts that I'm going to allow to come into my space. So, you know, this is something that I have done now for several years, and it's been a work in progress. It's been certainly a work in progress, and it still is from day to day. You know, I still select my thoughts. It's not like all positive thoughts just naturally come to me, but I'm self-aware to know what I'm thinking and to recognize those thoughts that don't align with my purpose. And I have the ability to choose my thoughts. And that is what helps me to live my life the way that I want to live it and create my own reality. So I really hope that this has been helpful to you. Please don't forget to share, like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you so much for tuning in. Take care.